Hello folks, good evening to you all. We're in West Kensington. We're going to start in about 30 seconds. Hello, my goodness, so many. Shannon, Jennifer, Mari, Cheryl. Hello, Tina, Claire. Oh, Shoshana, nice to see you. Tish, of course, wonderful. I'm very happy about this. Just near a blue plaque, which, wow, the National Art Collections Fund. The man at the bottom there is quite important to me, Francis Bacon, but not this Francis Bacon. I love this guy's paintings, but talking of William Shakespeare, there was another Francis Bacon in his time, poet, philosopher, writer, scientist, and quite a few people think that Francis Bacon wrote Shakespeare's plays. So we're in West Kensington. Let's turn you around. Don't get a shock. Here I am. It's not going to be about Shakespeare today. It's going to be about the Albert Hall and Exhibition Road. The scaffolding underneath us is the Ambassade de France, the French embassy. Hey Mandy, welcome. So look, you can see it behind me. They're doing some restoration work. So that's the French embassy. But in front of us, we have the Natural History Museum, covered by some beautiful trees that this time, 6 months ago, well, they wouldn't have been here. The trees would have been, but the leaves wouldn't, and you'd be able to see the museum pretty well. We're in SW7, Southwest 7, South Kensington. There's the tube station I've just got off at. And it kind of extends quite a lot, South Kensington. There are many different entrances and exits. It's a little bit deceiving. This is Cromwell Place, and that's the entrance that I got off at, all the way down the end. But there's another entrance about 500 yards to the left of us. It officially opened on the 24th of December 1868, and it was what they called a cut and cover, or a subsurface station, where the tracks were just dug into a trench just below the road level, and then gradually the roads were laid over them. So we've got tube tracks, underground tracks underneath us. And then you had the advancement of these tunnel boring machines, TBMs. So quite a few of the platforms now go very, very deep. But where I got off at, on the road in front of us, Exhibition Road, you can walk along half of the road through a tunnel that links all of the museums. We used to have to pay a penny to walk along the tunnel. The tunnel is enormous, and during both World Wars, items from all of these museums were stored here. This is the Natural History Museum. I don't want to dwell too much upon it because I know there are a couple of tours of the Natural History Museum. I just found out today that have been going on, will be going on. It'll be interesting to see them. And Mari used to walk there daily, lived in SW3. How lovely. So the museum itself, which is just there, opened in 1881. The architect was a man named Alfred Waterhouse. And it really is one of the must-sees. SW3 means Southwest 3. So we have different postcodes. I live in SE12, Southeast 12. And then you have SE1, Southeast 1. So the lower the number, the closer to the centre you are. So SE1 is Southwark, where the Globe Theatre is. Yeah, this is definitely one of the must-sees of London. Probably most famous for its large collection of dinosaur skeletons and the architecture itself. Being known as a cathedral of nature, it has 850 staff. And they look after 80 million items. Most of them are not on display. Yeah, Tish said a couple of guides have found a way. Well, we'll see what happens. I think one's tomorrow and one is Saturday. It'll be very interesting. I wouldn't have the nerve to ask a museum to go in, but good luck to them. It'd be amazing if they can get in there. There are 5 collections in here: botany, entomology, mineralogy, paleontology, and zoology. It's lucky I said all of that with my teeth in. The film One of Our Dinosaurs is Missing was filmed a lot in here in 1975. Paddington, one of the greatest ever films, The Mummy, starring Brendan Fraser. Alfred Waterhouse did Manchester Town Hall. My goodness. Now this is a Methuselah tree. That's the reason I am focusing on this. It's a fossilized specimen. It's not that old. It's only about 330 million years old. So, you know, pretty young in comparison to someone like myself. And it's fossilized. It's been what we call petrified, turned to stone. So all the organic material has been replaced by minerals. In this case, it would be iron and calcium carbonate. So petrification, fossilization. Okay, I scheduled this for a 30-minute walk. We'll see how we keep to that time, guys. So the road just to the left that we're going to go up is called Exhibition Road, and it's named after the Great Exhibition of 1851, which was in Hyde Park. So the end of our walk, at the top of the road near the Albert Hall, and we turn right at the end of the road, we've got Hyde Park. You take a left, you've got Kensington Gardens. But this area is also known as Albertopolis because of Prince Albert, the Prince Consort of Queen Victoria. And the buildings on either side have hardly changed in the last 100 years. But it's been pedestrianised. Very, very wide walkways now. It used to have double lane traffic, but now it means that we can spread out a bit when we walk. I'll just give you another view of the museum from the outside. They often have nighttime sleepovers in there as well. The families love it. The kids love dinosaurs. Recently I saw the current Jurassic Park film. And there's a dinosaur in it called a Giganotosaurus. And I used to pronounce it wrong. For a long time I was saying Gigantosaurus. I just thought that's what it was, but it's apparently a Giganotosaurus. There's a Thurlow Street just up to the right. John Thurlow was the advisor to Oliver Cromwell in the 17th century. And we've just come off Cromwell Road. Not named after Oliver Cromwell, but named after Richard Cromwell, who was the son of Oliver, who had a big house there. My friend restored the building just past the V&A on Exhibition Road in the mid-80s. Marius said, well, we need to have a little look at that. If we go in the right direction, that is. The architecture is something else here. It's the V&A, the Victorian Albert. The road in general was actually redesigned in the 2000s. It was all based on one man's book. It was called Thomas Gordon Cullen. He wrote a book called Townscape in 1961. And in the book, he promoted the idea that people needed roads like this, and the odd tree, and nice seats. They need to have visual stimulus. LEG saw the David Bowie exhibition there. It was amazing. And I missed that. I was gutted. So my partner, Catherine, she went there. She went without me. How rude. So this is the Henry Cole wing here. The V&A, it's dedicated to what we would know as decorative arts and applied arts and design. And it has a tiny comparison in relation to the Natural History Museum behind us. That has 80 million specimens. Oh, it's 2.5 million here. It's hardly anything. But I suppose they're larger items. Carpets, dresses, designs. Some of the items are furniture in here. But overall, size-wise, it's one of the largest museums in the world. It's got over 5,000 years of art history within it. There's a great documentary, I think it's in 6 parts. It's called Secrets of the Museum. It came out in 2020, just when all the lockdowns started. Well worth watching about the V&A. There was a theatre museum. The entire white building just past, Mari. Okay, we're going to have a little look. Wow-wee. That's some good work. I might be wrong, but I think that's called Blavatnik Hall in there. I think Len Blavatnik, the owner of Warner Music, I think he paid for that. So originally it was called South Kensington Museum. And the architect of this part of it was called Captain Francis Fowke, Fowke. And this was designed in 1857, this part of it. Yeah, Manu has said this theatre section is amazing. It's on the 3rd floor. So there was originally a theatre museum in Covent Garden. And it lost its funding. And people campaigned, people like Vanessa Redgrave, Ian McKellen, Derek Jacobi, Simon Callow. It was a free museum, and for a while they thought they would charge for it, but they didn't. And the theatre museum closed, and it's now a bar and restaurant. The theatre museum archives, all on the 3rd floor of the V&A. They also have an enormous Glastonbury Festival archive, all the way back to 1970. This is part of the Science Museum, and I think there must have been some event in there, because it is just gone 8:30 and they closed a good while ago. The Science Museum is more modern as a structure. It's one of the ones that kids want to see more than anything. But the ornate structure of the Henry Cole wing of the V&A, he was the first director of the Victoria and Albert Museum. But he does something great for regular working class people. He extended the opening times into the evening with gas lighting, because he said, and I quote him, the working classes would be able to attend. A lot of these museums, people were working during the day, and they were normally attended by rich, either aristocracy or just people that didn't need to work. Right, let's walk up a little bit more. Building in front is the Hyde Park Chapel. Do excuse me, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or the Mormon Church as we would know it. The show, The Book of Mormon in the West End, the Mormon Church did something very clever. They would stand outside all nicely when the show was on, the Book of Mormon, obviously by the creators of South Park, and they would say, well, you've seen the show, now buy the book. They have been free admission, and they were going to charge, and they did for a little bit in the Natural History Museum. And when David Cameron was campaigning for the Conservative government to get back in, one of the things he did two things which kind of got him votes. He wanted gay marriage, which a lot of the party didn't want at the time, and he said, no, we need this. So he opened up the voting to a lot more people, and he also said all the museums, the main ones, the royal ones, should be free. And Prince's Gate here has this Art Deco design, designed by A.D. Button and Partners, also designed the Park Lane Hotel. Prince's Gate News. This down there and to the right is the headquarters, number 14, of 8 US ambassadors between 1920 and 1950. And now the US ambassador to the Court of St. James, lives in Winfield House, which is in Regent's Park. And that ambassador today has the second largest private garden in London, after some little place called Buckingham Palace. Yeah, John, they're all expensive. Well, they call it Art Deco, but it's definitely based on Bauhaus as well. I like the look of it. Also, just down in Prince's Gate, 1980 was the site of the Iranian embassy siege, which lasted for 5 days. Just down there to the right. So quite a difference in styles of buildings, and now it gets a bit more traditional and ornate and stucco. So they are basically brick buildings, but they've been plastered. That's what stucco means. It's just a nicer way of saying it, with marble plaster. And on the left, the modern building is Imperial College London. So it's a science, technology and medicine college. The idea was Prince Albert, many years ago, had a vision for an area of culture. And this became it. So this section of London has been known as Albertopolis. People don't say it who live here. Most people don't mention Albertopolis, but that's what it was known as in the late 1800s. And what it came out of was a concern that Germany were getting ahead of Britain in terms of scientific education. And Prince Albert was a patron of the early royal colleges. There are quite a few of them up here. Robert Rennie Mackintosh, yes, I need to do a bit more research into that, John. That car is culture, indeed. Should we have a little look at that Ferrari, actually? Everyone's into cars. Glasgow has a good view of this building. Yeah, it's nice. I thought I'd park here halfway between Exhibition Road and the Albert Hall. Thought it was a better idea, sort of halfway in between. Whew. These Heygo tours. They pay well, guys. I could barely even afford to look at that. So, as I said, thanks for laughing as well. Prince Albert was a patron of the early royal colleges, and this area had the museums in it, so it just seemed perfect as this site of culture. I've also got just up here the Pepperdine University. And the Pepperdine started in Los Angeles by George Pepperdine in 1937. Some of you may have studied there. Now the main area is in Malibu. There are, of course, international campuses all over the world. This is the London campus. And it's a private research university. It's affiliated with the Churches of Christ. It's open to all beliefs. Do excuse me, I've just got a bit from a tree in my mouth. When I first did this walk, I called it Pepperdine, and then I asked somebody from Los Angeles, and she said, no, it's Pepperdine. Yeah, let's get a little view of this again. So there was, in the 1930s, Art Deco and Bauhaus, but Art Deco, we influenced, of course, by German architecture. A lot of the picture houses, the movie houses, and 6 theatres in the West End, including the Prince Edward and the Cambridge Theatre, they're all based on this style. But a lot of the old picture houses, which then became bingo halls and then became pubs, they're all based on this, what was a reaction to very ornate Victorian architecture. Helen said it's interesting street surface, hard to tell the difference between the sidewalk and the road. You're telling me. I got hooted quite a few times when I was testing the signal earlier. There's literally no difference. But I like it. Somehow, it just makes you feel like there's more space. The problem is, if I walk here, I'm on the road part. Nice time of the evening. First time I did this, I think it was 6 o'clock. It was in the middle of rush hour, so the cars were packed along here. It didn't look as nice. And the signal dropped at the end. But we don't need to worry about that, because if the signal drops anywhere near the Albert Hall, which is at the top of the road, I have an enormous amount of photographs to share on the chat and a couple of photographs of some facts and figures. So if we do lose anything, you'll get some amazing views as well. The beginnings of making it a private road, DT has said. Bronwyn has said, someone who has sight issues. I find that road extremely stressful to navigate. It is tricky. It kind of feels nice to me now walking up it, but I'll be honest with you, I feel the same way. I'm not sure which is road and which is sidewalk. There should be something, a pavement. Just around here is a German language school. On this corner, number 49 and 50, called the Goethe Institute. And they're so clever. The restaurant next door is called Stein's Berlin, so it's German food. They've conveniently located themselves right next door to the German Language Institute. I know German already, but thanks. Yeah, you don't need to go there. Speak it, eat it, live it. I suppose you do the classes in German, and then at the end of your day, you might go for something to eat and try out your German. Building in front is the Jamaican High Commission, or diplomatic mission. It's different to an embassy. It's a Commonwealth country. It's a prime location, a beautiful area of London. Just around here is the Royal College of Mines. This entire building. And they study mineralogy, maps, mining equipment, geology. If I don't lose the signal, I'd like to show you the front of it on Prince Consort Road. Prince Albert was the Prince Consort. Now, if I was Lara Croft, and I don't look anything like her, let's say I was Indiana Jones and I came to London to do a semester, this is where I would go. In 1841, the Royal School of Mines was established. And the two statues here are of Julius Werner and Alfred Bates. They were the sponsors and benefactors to the school. So you've got geology, mineralogy, maps, anything to do with archaeology itself. Mines as in M-I-N-E-S. See if we can see the sign that says it here. Royal School of Mines. No. It was pointless. Maybe we'll see it if we walk up a bit. Great, the light has ruined everything. Royal School of Mines. I should make them shut off the light. I know security are in there right now. So rude. Yeah, no light in mines. You go into a mine, there's no light, but in there, so much light. The irony of that. It's a deep subject. Tish, you need to stop with those jokes. Because that was disgraceful. Yeah, apologies. Apologies accepted. And the man that designed this building was Aston Webb. He did a lot of the main facade of Buckingham Palace. But the building itself has been seen in Kingsman, Sliding Doors, Poirot, and in one of the greatest films of all time, The Ipcress File, 1965. Now we need to go back onto Exhibition Road. I do apologise. Taking a little detour. But there you go, Jamaican High Commission. And we're then going to approach a couple of other royal establishments. One of them is the Royal Geographical Society. The building is Lauder Lodge. So I'm going to get my skates on here. The road, by the way, I need to show us this. It's called Kensington Gore. It's an old English word for wedge. Look at those buildings. Look at those apartments. That is ornate architecture at its best. So if you imagine looking at this from the top, and I will share a photograph of the top area and the walk we've taken, an aerial view, which I managed to find. If you can imagine Trivial Pursuit, and you have your little counter that you fill in with your little cheeses or wedges, or a Lazy Susan. Lazy Susan is the best example. The Royal Albert Hall, which is behind those buildings, is the middle bit, the circular bit of the Lazy Susan. And all of this are the dips and the condiments. Lazy Susan. No, Susan, I didn't mean that. Oh. They need to change that name, don't they? I sense a bad review. Yeah, the tour was great. Jared's got a wonderful voice. He's the greatest guide on Heygo, but he called me lazy. That's, well, you got to put up with it. That's it, the round platform. They're one of the great things that I'm going to change the name of Lazy Susan to Lazy Gerard. There you go. That's it. That's what it's going to be known as from now on. And people will say, what do you mean? And I'll say, is there a Susan on this tour? No? Okay, it's a lazy Susan. I'll always check if you're on, Susan. Okay, the Royal Geographic Society. Lowther Lodge is the building at the top. 1874, a man named Richard Norman Shaw designed it, but it's been gradually extended. So there are modern sections. There's a Darwin Centre, obviously. There are lots of embassies around here. I passed the French embassy. I passed the embassy of Oman earlier, and I couldn't believe it. When I saw it, I went, oh man, I didn't know it was here. No, suddenly everyone logs off. But the architect, Richard Norman Shaw, he designed the Piccadilly Hotel. Now, I do a little Piccadilly at night, and I'll show you that it looks exactly like that when we do our little Piccadilly circus at night. But he also designed the Grimsdyke Hotel in Harrow, which is quite close to my family and my partner Catherine and her family, because there have been weddings and celebrations and birthdays in northwest London. And the building looks exactly like the Grimsdyke Hotel. When I last did this tour, you could see all of these statues here. Shackleton, Livingstone, Darwin, Scott, Edmund Hillary. And now we're going to have to be a bit more ninja-like. So this is Ernest Shackleton. He led 3 Antarctic expeditions. Now, if anyone speaks French, I always make this mistake when I say exhibition to the French. And I sometimes take them on tours and I take them to an exhibition area. But I know that the word in French is exposition. But when I say to a French school or some French ladies, I might say, oh, come round the corner and I'll show you the exhibition. It literally means you're going to expose yourself. So I have to remember exposition. The Royal Geographic Society. So it's been a key supporter, this building, of many explorers and expeditions. Of course, Livingstone was another physician, explorer, missionary. But it definitely has a look of the Grimsdyke Hotel to it. And now we're coming up to the Albert Hall, which is in the centre of the screen. And at the moment, they've got the BBC proms on. Proms, promenade. In the 1800s, a lot of working class people couldn't afford to go to buildings like this. So they would have promenade concerts in pleasure gardens, in parks. And people could just walk past and listen to the music. But the proms, the BBC proms as we call them, are a series of musical events where people stand at the front, and the tickets at the front are quite cheap. So it's Vaughan Williams' Sea Symphony. At the moment, that's what's on tonight. And next week, it's got the IGN, the International Gaming Network, are doing game music. And the Royal Philharmonic are playing there. Right opposite the Royal Albert Hall is the Albert Memorial. You're going to get to see that, and the light is perfect for it. Oh, thank you for following, Sharon. And thank you, Joy. Diana said that her son surprised her with tickets for Van Morrison. I saw Van Morrison in the 1980s with my mum. Van Morrison and the Chieftains here at the Albert Hall. An unbelievable concert. He made an album called Irish Heartbeat with the Chieftains, and if you don't know the album, some of the greatest Irish music ever created. No, this is the thing. So Anshia said, did they have the last night of the proms after the lockdown? Now, 1871, we're talking Royal Albert Hall. So last year, they should have been celebrating 150 years. And unfortunately, well, we know what happened last year. COVID, etc., and it was happening the year before, and it's still going on. So this year they're celebrating the 150 years. So the proms were a virtual event. And this is the Albert Memorial itself in Kensington Gardens, Kensington Palace Gardens. Built by public subscription. Public subscription didn't mean just regular folks giving money. It normally meant wealthy merchants. And it opened in 1872, obviously by Queen Victoria. And the statue in the centre was seated in 1876, so 4 years later. It's Grade 1 listed, which means it will never change. I need us to appreciate how dry it has been in London. So just past these kids here, look at our lovely green grass. You might think it's the filter on the camera, but that's the grass of London at the moment. Isn't that crazy? Everything's yellow. We need water, guys. Mary remembers the memorial without the green fence. I know. It's a shame we've got the fence there. It's 176 feet, or 54 metres tall. And it's supposed to resemble a canopy over a church. It's in Gothic revival style. Let's see that on the chat. They say he's sitting down. My goodness, so much chat. The Walter Scott Memorial in Edinburgh, Tish. It's interesting. The name Scott is synonymous with this place. The designer was a man named Giles Gilbert Scott, and I've mentioned him on many, many tours. He designed Waterloo Bridge, he designed Battersea Power Station, the Tate Modern, the old Bankside Power Station, and the red telephone boxes, and also designed this. The fence is only here at the moment. I think they're doing some restoration work, but it's just been here the last couple of times, but it wasn't here in January. So I think they might be doing some paint work. So it's got these different sections for commerce, engineering, agriculture and manufacture, and it celebrates industry, which is what I suppose the Victorian period and the Industrial Revolution did. And there are also 4 different sections with the Africas, Americas, Asia and Europe. It was inspired by a place in Verona, the Scaliger Tombs. This is Portland stone. I can't do a vertical, which is really quite annoying on this gimbal because it turns the gimbal off. So I'm going to have to do something which involves stepping over and going onto grass. This is the best I can do, but what I definitely am doing is getting rid of that horrific green fence. But I am going to share a few pics of it, which are vertical. Pretty beautiful, and the way it's lit at night. So you've got Portland stone around the outside, enamel, agate, onyx. There's jasper, cornelian, marble, and good old-fashioned granite. It's a stunning piece of architecture. Giles Gilbert Scott. Imagine that this man designed a red telephone box and then designed Battersea Power Station. And then designed this. Look at that. The way that's lit at night. It is like something out of a dream. Beautiful colours, an amazing structure in itself. Celebrating 150 years this year when we should have been doing it last year. And Liverpool Cathedral, Susan. Right, that's a good question, Helen. How many people fit inside for a concert? Well, originally, about twice as many as it has today. So the capacity at the moment is about 5,500. But it was originally designed for about 8,000 people. And at a stretch, they could fit in 12,000. Now, I don't understand how they could get 12,000 in and now they get 5,500. Health and safety, of course, but still, it's still half the amount. 6 million red bricks, fire restrictions. We have them now. It's the same at the Globe Theatre. The Globe, same shape and size, used to hold 3,000, now it holds 1,500. And for a while I thought, oh, it's because people were half the width. But no, it's health and safety. Yeah, it's quite intimate, I suppose. It is pretty enormous in its size. The architects were two men, Francis Folk and Henry Young Dowcott Scott. The dome is the fascinating thing. It's the largest unsupported glass dome in the world. It's 20,000 square feet. The dome, the glass dome, is not attached in any way to the Royal Albert Hall. It is just sat on top of it. It's literally just put on top of it. And it can stand 158 tons of snow. 80,000 terracotta blocks and 6 million red bricks. The carpet in the corridor is the largest woven carpet, the single largest single piece in the world. And the square footage of the carpet, which goes in the corridors, is twice the size of Wembley Stadium football pitch. It almost glows, Isis has said, and Dina said, I saw the Everly brothers there in 1970. Oh, that's something. I could only dream of that. I thought about that joke for a couple of seconds. That's why there was a pause in the chat. In September of 1901, the first ever bodybuilding competition was held here. I didn't enter. I was busy. But the judge was a man called Arthur Conan Doyle, creator of Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson. Arthur Conan Doyle judged the first ever bodybuilding competition. And now, this gets me. 1909, they had an indoor marathon. An indoor marathon around the outskirts. They did 524 laps of the auditorium. Now, I don't want to dismiss any form of entertainment, but I would say 524 laps, just watching people run, that could be one of the most boring things on earth. But they had a live orchestra that played different music all the way through. Yehudi Menuhin, the violinist, played here in 1929 when he was 13. And then he played in 1998. So there was a gap between his first performance and last performance of 69 years. Ella Fitzgerald, Fred Astaire, Jimi Hendrix, Pink Floyd, Michael Kiwanuka, Danny Elfman. And they had a recent Lord of the Rings with the Royal Philharmonic doing the music for the Fellowship of the Ring. They've all played here. The organ inside, the Henry Willis organ, it's known as the Voice of Jupiter, 25 yards high, weighs 150 tons, and it has 10,000 pipes. Now, I'm saying all of this, I am going to be posting images in a couple of minutes. Mary saw Sir Cliff Richard. Did they run clockwise or counterclockwise? That's a good question. I should have done my research. I do apologise. Probably clockwise. It just seems the way you... Is it clockwise when you run on the track? Yeah, probably clockwise. Always seems to be clockwise, doesn't it? The Camptown ladies that made them speed up. Another great fact about it, in the 1890s, if you couldn't afford a ticket or you couldn't get a ticket, you could... Now imagine we're on Heygo, and if you can't get to where we are, you watch this tour. So I'm taking you to London. That's how I feel, that you're with me in London. You could telephone the Royal Albert Hall and pay for it to be played down the telephone line. And it was something called electrophone. We've come a long way. Imagine electrophone. In the 1960s, acoustic diffusers, they called them the mushrooms, were put in there because it is quite an echoey building. During the Second World War, it was used as a landing marker for bomber pilots. So they could see the top of the Albert Hall and they thought, right, we're in the right place, central London, let's bomb. So they painted the roof black to try and stop it. "85 meters or 272 feet in diameter. They're doing Carmina Burana there in September. Is that? Da, 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 da. I think that's... LEG saw Madame Butterfly there. They built a river and gardens. An enormous amount of what look to be English language students that are in the area. So, I'm going to just post at will. It's all on the chat if anyone isn't watching the chat. And just turn it on for now, and I'm going to send you a few pictures that I took earlier. We've got the acoustic diffusers. Got a beautiful aerial view. Obviously didn't go that high to take that. There's a view from a distance. What else do we have here? It's a closer view of the memorial. This is the Henry Willis organ, which I mentioned, with 10,000 pipes. And finally, the route that we have just taken. Walked along Exhibition Road. So you can double click on that and you'll be able to see that we walked up the road all the way to the Albert Hall. So it'll be the road on the right hand side that we walked up. Now, I'm going to bring you back to me. Some of you may not have seen me. Folks, I said 30 minutes. I've been 50. I do apologise. I'm so sorry. I did really enjoy that. It's become one of my favourite ever walks. I was a bit worried about the signal the last time I did it. The signal seemed to have been perfect. Thank you so much for your comments. Thank you for anyone that did tip. It really does mean the world. And do come and join me again. I'm doing something crazy tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. before I go off and do some tour guiding and teaching at the Globe Theatre. At 7 a.m. I'm doing my Kew Gardens talk and tour again for people who might be asleep. At this hour, they might get up. But if you folks have just got up and in 7, 8, 9, we're talking about 10 hours from now, stay up. Thank you so much, Tish. Thank you very much. Look at that. What a building. When you tour guide in London, the job is half done for you, I always feel, because you've got all of this. And working on Heygo, it really feels like it's kind of made me see London in a different way. Thrilled about the Hitchcock tour. Yeah, we're going to talk about the life of Alfred Hitchcock, the world of Alfred Hitchcock. A contentious figure, but very influential. Helen loves the pre-filmed live chats. I'm definitely going to do more. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, Tish, you're all over it, always. Greetings in Germany. Let's leave you. Prince Albert, Albertopolis, this area, which he really inspired, passed away far too young. Lots of love to you all. And again, keep watching and do follow me. It makes my mum proud. My mum and my brother are in Cork at the moment, and I'm going to join them in a week or so. But I know that my mum is watching this on an iPad in the small town, and she loves it when I get new followers. Yay, John, good man yourself. And I'll be over there and we'll do a couple of walks when I'm over there, walk in Cork through the fields. We'll talk about the history of the area and the nature. Be very different from this architecture, but just as fascinating, hopefully. Yeah, they're all saying hello. You raised a wonderful son. Tish, come on now. What do you want? Commission? Lots of love. I'll see you again. Take care. Bye-bye.